Okay, well, hello and welcome everyone to the UBC Hempology 1/3 Annual Cannabis Convention. My name is Ted Smith. I'm always happy to be out educating people about cannabis and what people are doing in the movement and with the herb and the plant. And I'm always excited to be at these conventions, which are an opportunity for me and hopefully you to learn more about what is happening in the field, as it were. And so today we have gathered 4 people who have dedicated their lives and are working very hard with cannabis right now to do any number of things to heal themselves, to heal their loved ones, to heal the planet around them. And it's always a great pleasure to be surrounded and work with individuals like those that are here today. And so it's going to be a jam-packed 2.5 hours here of information about what is happening, and if you miss any of it, it's certainly going to be available on YouTube for you to show to others as well if you want to do that. So I'm happy to use that forum to share information to people that can't always be here. And so thanks everyone for coming, and thanks very much to Mallory, who's traveled all the way from Victoria here today from Hemp and Company, where she's working with my very good friend Bill and his group of businesses really that Hemp and Company works with. It started in the Kootenays, and I'm not entirely sure of Mallory's place in it yet, but I'm looking forward to hearing more about how she's helping with Hemp and Company and their work and with the plants. So thank you very much again for coming over.
Well, hello everyone. I'm just going to leave some stuff here. I'm going to do my best to not stare at a sheet of paper the whole time and actually look at you. I'd also really like to try and start as much of a dialogue as possible and kind of get a conversation going. As much as the resemblance is uncanny, I'm not Bill Finley. He is the owner of Hemp and Company, but he couldn't be here today. He's actually just pretty busy holding down the network back in Victoria. We have 3 stores right now, so I don't know if everyone here has heard of Hemp and Company before. I think I'll probably start there. For those of you that don't know, as Ted started saying, Hemp and Company actually started on the mainland. Bill's son Mike actually he opened the store in Nelson in 1990, and Bill joined him that same year. And the whole idea with Hemp and Company is just showcasing hemp as a fabric and its versatility and the different uses for it. So the store kind of focuses on 3 places, primarily clothing, and I brought a bunch of stuff from the store. So we have our own clothing line, which I will talk a little bit about, and then we also do body care, and then we sell hemp as food through oil, through the seed, through the powder, different things like that. And I'm going to state it here, and this is going to require me to stare at a sheet of paper, but because I think it is really important. Our mission is we want to be part of the movement that is creating this worldwide market for Canadian-grown hemp products and raising awareness about the uses of hemp. And as Ted said, yes, I work for Hemp and Company. I'm very new, so it's really interesting being on this side of it. I started working for H&C in September. I work in the store and I do online sales as well, so if you're ever on our social media pages, I'm the one trying to be funny. So that's how you'll know it's me. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. What I really want to talk about too is, Hemp and Company believes and knows that hemp can be a part of the shift to a more socially responsible economy, and it can be a more environmentally conscious economy. And so that's kind of what we focus on as a store and as a business, and that's our ethic. I don't know if anyone's heard of the triple bottom line. Any takers? They all start with P. Any guesses?
Price.
So any decision that we make in the company and anything we try to do, we try to look at it from 3 angles. Profit, we're a business, but also people and the planet. So we try to be as socially responsible and as environmentally responsible as we can.
You should mention Hemp and Company. Bill has actually won an award for being an outstanding employer in Victoria.
He is, yeah. He's won that award. We've won a couple of environmental excellence awards. It is just family run. Like I said, Bill's the owner. His wife Lorna is the purchasing manager. She also runs Ion. It's Only Natural. It's our natural clothing line, which is through where we manufacture our own line of clothing. And then the staff's like less than 10 people, and we're all kind of adopted family. So it's a really, really awesome space to be in, and it's a really great company. Bill's a really great employer. He's an awesome guy to work for sure.
Is that the same company that does the suits?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
That's actually great.
So
I thought it
this
was familiar.
hemp jacket here and pants and suit jacket are all made in Victoria by the company.
Yeah, and that was a first for us. We have 3 places where we actually manufacture our own clothing. I'll just jump right into that. And we have a few select pieces, including the vest that Ted's wearing, that is actually manufactured in Victoria, which is really awesome. We try to make as much as we can in Canada. Everything is manufactured in Canada, even though we don't necessarily source our materials from Canada. We also do a lot of our manufacturing in Vancouver. So we have a factory that we've worked with for as long as we've been open here as well, and then our dye house is in Manitoba. And they do a closed loop cycle of dye so that it's lower impact, which is pretty great. So one of my understandings of why I was asked to be here as well is we get this in the store all the time. There's a lot of confusion about hemp versus marijuana. Can anyone tell me some of the differences between hemp and pot? I will give you free things. Yes.
THC content.
Yeah, absolutely. We get people coming in all the time and asking if they smoke the shirt, will they get high? You'll just get sick, you won't get high, it's a waste of a shirt. So the THC content, as you probably know, in pot can be anywhere from 5 to up to 20%, whereas hemp you're going to get 0.3% or lower. And it's actually regulated by Health Canada, and they do those regular screenings. Anything beyond that, it's not considered, it's not usable for commercial production for hemp. Any other differences between hemp and pot that people can tell me about for free hemp seeds?
Hemp's not psychoactive.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that one? I missed that.
Hemp's not psychoactive.
What about the fiber content? Is hemp grown for fiber?
It is, yeah. Yeah, they're grown for completely different reasons, and I'm not going to touch on it because there's lots of other awesome speakers here today. And marijuana has medicinal purposes as well as others. Yeah.
Hemp has got all 9 essential amino acids, and it has the perfect balance of omega-3s and 6s in it.
It does, yeah. So that's another one of the totally different uses between hemp and marijuana. And so it's always really funny when people ask about smoking the product. So hemp is grown for, as you know, tons of different uses. It can be anywhere from textiles to biomass to construction materials. I'm going to focus on the clothing and hemp in its agricultural form, just because that's where my knowledge is. But if you guys want to talk about anything else or bring anything else up, I'm more than welcome to take a break from talking at you. But I think I'll start with, the fiber content, the health of hemp seeds. They are incredibly healthy. They're about 35% protein. It's one of the highest sources of plant protein that you can get. The only other equally high source is soy, but the difference is hemp is much more easily digestible. And so anything that's easier to digest, you're going to absorb more of the nutrients from it. And even though you can cook soy or ferment it and make tempeh, and it's going to be easier to digest, hemp's completely digestible in its raw form. And hemp isn't a common known allergen, so you don't have the likelihood of having a reaction or having the same kind of problems that some people do with soy. Any other ideas while I take a drink of my water?
How exactly do they find the difference between like hemp as being digestible versus soy being digestible?
Soy is just harder to break down by the body. Don't get me wrong, I love soy. I eat a lot of it myself, but it's the protein that's in soy. It's a little bit harder for our stomachs to break down. That's the only difference. Where the protein that exists in hemp is a really simple protein for our bodies to take it. Yeah. And as was said, it has all essential fatty acids, which is kind of amazing. That's actually really hard to find in most foods. And it's a really nice alternative to something like fish oil if you're worried about overfishing or toxin buildup in fish, or you don't eat meat or something like that. It's a really good alternative for that. It's also one of the only sources of plants that has the equal ratio of omega fatty acids, so what the body needs, which is about, I think it's 3 parts omega-6 to omega-3. And so it's got it in the right ratio for your body to break down as well, which is another one of the nutritional benefits of hemp. And so one of the things I was giving out, we actually carry hemp seeds in their raw form, and they can be thrown on salads, they can be thrown in dips, the sandwiches, granola, whatever. You can toast them, you can buy them toasted. You can buy them in a powder. It's really good for protein shakes. So if you're an athlete and you need that high protein content. And you can even buy hemp milk, hemp butter. It's just kind of endless when it comes to food. The different ways that you can eat it. I don't know if there's anyone here that hasn't tried hemp seeds before. I'm going to give you a bag of hemp seeds then. We actually recently we have an ongoing debate at work about what hemp seeds taste like, and the conclusion is that even though they have their own distinct flavor, a lot of people say that they taste like sunflower seeds. So anything that you want to add like a nutty kind of flavor to, they're really good for that.
When you say you can get it in a powder, is it just ground hemp seed?
Yeah, it's actually the seed has been cold pressed, and so you're not going to lose any of the nutrients because of it hasn't been raised beyond a certain temperature, and that's the same with the oil. It's also cold pressed. Yeah.
I've got another difference. 100 years ago, this was the biggest cash crop in the USA.
Yeah.
And now they're not allowed to grow it.
Yeah, absolutely. Up until the early 1800s, hemp was used for pretty much everything from sails to textiles to flooring to construction materials. And there's been a lot of misinformation, and there's been a lot of kind of fear-mongering about hemp and marijuana. And they've been lumped together, and both of them have been stigmatized. And in Canada in 1938, both were banned. And as you say, in the States, it's still illegal. You can have hemp products in the States, but you can't grow them yet. But that's kind of, it looks like there's going to be a little bit of a shift in the States. And even in Canada, like I say, it's heavily regulated. There's no seed sharing allowed. You can't hold your own seeds. It has to be a certified seed from Health Canada. And you have to have a license every year that you grow hemp. But even with all these regulations, we still have over 300 hemp farms in Canada. And last year we had 55,000 acres of hemp farm licensed. So, and they're expecting that to just keep increasing. Does anyone know what the majority of our hemp is used for in Canada that's grown here?
Hemp nut and oil.
Yeah, definitely. It mostly goes to food product. We don't actually have the facilities yet in Canada to turn hemp into a textile. And that's something that we really want to push, and especially with the States maybe kind of relaxing a little bit on commercial hemp farming. We really want to see processing plants in Canada, because right now, like I say, our clothing is all hemp blends. We manufacture it here, but we can't actually get our textile here. And that's something that we would really, really like to see. It's what Bill's always pushing for. It's his dream in his lifetime. And we're pretty sure we're going to see it, but it's a matter of kind of getting that push.
So Canada is the largest seed producer in the world now.
Yeah, and the United States right now is the only country, the only industrialized country that doesn't actually allow the farming of hemp. It can be grown here. You can grow it in New Zealand, most places in Eastern Europe, and of course China, which has one of the longest histories with hemp that is discussed. So, but Canada is known for its hemp. We are the quality producers of it, and we ship a lot of it to the States, for sure. Yeah.
I have a question about that actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the potential changes in the States coming, I mean, Canada's market is largely exporting to the United States. You know, the biggest market in the world, and they get mostly from Russia, China, and Canada.
Yeah.
So what happens to our Canadian producers and stills doing like, are they afraid in a way? Because once the United States can grow their own, do their own, it's going to be a big hit.
Well, I mean, this is a huge opportunity for Canada, especially in terms of spurring the economy, and creating jobs, and creating locally produced product. We're not worried about it because even in terms of what's happening in Canada with the hemp farms, we're just barely scratching the surface of the demand. And so even when it becomes legal in some states or throughout the states, like it was said, all of our goes to food stuff right now. So we haven't even begun with textiles. So the market isn't disappearing anytime soon. It's just going to keep growing and expanding, especially if we get into construction materials and biomass and other things. There's a lot of potential growth for hemp, so we're not very worried about it at all.
Another interesting statistic that I've picked up in the last year or so, that if you do a comparison, just look at one industry that this could take on, would be the forestry industry. You can grow on 1 acre of, because you can make paper from hemp, you can grow on 1 acre in one season what actually takes 25 acres of forestry to do, because you have to plant a tree today and it takes many years to come to maturity and then be lobbed. You can take 25 acres of that. Now you could probably convince most people globally that it's a good idea to grow hemp in one season on 1 acre, but very hard to convince the Forestry Commission that it's a good idea that we stop doing forestry and cutting the trees down every year, because that's an industry they support and people's jobs rely on it. So there's a vested interest there not to allow paper to be produced from hemp.
Yeah, that's really interesting because last semester I took forestry for my first time, trying to see how hemp actually can be used with this kind of stuff. And when I talked to my teacher about it, he explained how he's like, hemp is an agricultural product. So when I kept talking about hemp, he was like, there's nothing to talk about. And I realized that it's like you're saying, it's a competition. It's really a competition on the market. But really, forestry should benefit from this. They would in the end. And I'm just baffled that it is getting pushed so far back and it's being delayed so much by the foresters. But I don't know because I haven't taken forestry this semester anyways.
Yeah, and definitely I think part of it is going to be convincing people of that shift. There is that concern, and it's the same thing, like we're up against petroleum products as well, because hemp has a huge potential to replace a ton of petroleum products. But at the same time, Alberta is one of the largest producers of hemp seeds. It's Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. So, at least in my opinion, I think part of it is going to be convincing these industries that they don't have to lose out, that they can shift and move with the industry and move with us and be a part of it, because there's still lots of potential. It's just a matter of moving the jobs. I don't know if you guys see other kind of barriers or other things that you think would actually help the industry move forward. Yeah.
Do you think it's a benefit or detriment that Hemp and Company is a family-based company to like the global hemp market?
I think people really like to shop local. They like to support their neighbors. Bill and Lorna have been in Victoria for forever now, even though he started on the mainland. And while we're independent and we're local and we're a family business, and those are things we care about. We ship everywhere in the world. I've shipped to Brazil, to UK. There's quite a demand for it. And you know, I often get emails and phone calls from people that say, even from Eastern Canada, I can't find a business like yours around here. What do I do? Can I buy from you? Where can I get it from here? Do you know anyone I can be in touch with? So I don't think it's necessarily going to hurt us. If anything, I think people like having that small business. You know, people can come into our store, they know our names, we know their names. And we, as much as we're small as well, we also have the opportunity for growth. Like we have 3 of our stores, and one of them is a franchise, and people can apply to have a franchise with us as well. So, yeah. I think the other few things I want to say, since Dave had mentioned paper, actually, I brought just this one little notebook with a sample of hemp paper. The other thing that's really great about it is, if we're talking about wood pulp, you can only usably recycle it about 3 times. Hemp, you can recycle it and still use it 5 to 7 times. So just the length, like the length of the life cycle of a hemp product versus something like wood pulp is kind of amazing. It's 5 to 7 times stronger than cotton as well, if we're talking about fabrics. So we're talking about a product that is durable, it's long lasting, hemp is color fast, it's naturally UV resistant, and it's breathable, and it's a temperature regulator. So you get all of these properties from this one plant that can do so many things. Like I'm all over the place. I'm talking about paper, I'm talking about how nutritionally packed it is with vitamins and minerals, and then I'm talking about clothes. So there's just kind of a huge potential for it. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about agriculture and the industry and growing it in Canada. And like I touched on before about the processing plants, and do you think people could see that in Canada or would want that shift, or what it would take to actually get us there? Any ideas?
Take the United States to at least take it seriously, and then Canada can probably do something. I think Canada is more inhibited by the United States than it is by its own country.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm not.
Yeah, I think, you know, as whether we like to admit it or not, there's a lot of influence that comes from our friends in the South. And so them shifting will hopefully, I think it will as well, have a really positive impact for us. We are kind of a little bit ahead of the curve. It's, you know, we did legalize the sale and the growing of commercial hemp in '97, and then started giving out licenses again in 1998. So we are seeing quite a trend, but again, it's getting it from food sources up to textiles. Yeah.
And we have a federal medical system, which they do not have.
This is very true. Yeah, absolutely. So we get some things right.
Where was the paper produced? Was it in China or North America or Europe?
That paper in particular, I think that's a Canadian company. I'll double check for you and find out before I head out. I can say more generally that a lot of the hemp products that Hemp and Company has does come from China or Romania or Hungary. And for the reason for that is just simply because it's never been illegal in these places to grow and sell hemp. And so they've never had their facilities dismantled. They've never had legal gray areas. So much, and it's not, we're not unique in that way. Most of the world's hemp comes from China and Eastern Europe. And so that's kind of, and we have been actually working with the same textile factories in China since we've been in business, and Bill has been to those facilities, and it's a really great working relationship, but it would be really nice to get it closer. And actually the nice thing when it comes to something like paper is the paper mills that we have now wouldn't require a lot of conversion to use hemp instead. Whereas we don't have the facilities for textiles, but when it comes to paper, that's something that we could easily shift over. Like, our factories wouldn't need much of a change.
And there's lots of ones that aren't being used.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and they are still closing down. So that's another huge potential if we're talking about hemp and what we can do in Canada. And one of the reasons I started working for Hemp and Company, I'm pretty new there, like I said. I started working with them in September, and one of the reasons I did is I like to think of myself for the most part as an environmentalist, or I try to be environmentally conscious and as environmentally aware as I can. And I find that hemp just kind of flies under the radar. It kind of gets lost in the conversation. It's not really discussed and it's kind of just finding its place in the environmental movement and having its own voice, when it could be a really big part of, again, the campaigns to stop deforestation, or, you know, Greenpeace is starting to go after the large clothing companies and the chemicals they use. And so this is a really great opportunity for hemp to really shine and kind of branch out and kind of dispel some of the myths about it. You know, it's definitely its own thing in its own right, and I think that that's something that we could really use. And the other things I wanted to talk about a little bit, I don't know where I'm at with time at all.
It's getting short here.
Okay, awesome. The only other thing I want to talk about is just a little bit more about agriculturally. 1 acre of hemp is going to produce as much usable fiber as 2 acres of cotton. And the reason we're really pushing for more industry in Canada is you can basically grow hemp anywhere south of the Northwest Territories. It has a really, really short growing season. It's 80 to 90 to 110 or 120 days. And so you can get a harvest every year, sometimes twice a year. And so this is a really great opportunity for us. And it's no surprise that hemp is really growing, but it would be great to see it continue to grow and to see that industry move a little bit closer to Canada. And I will leave it there if it's
Let's say something.
Yeah.
I think there's a benefit that you can grow twice the amount. You can
Yes.
grow in 1 acre over 2 acres, but then the clothing lasts 5 to 7 times longer. Now the clothing manufacturers are not going to be too happy about that because they're going to sell less clothes, but frankly I don't care. I think from an environmental perspective, people buy less clothes but they're more robust, they last longer, that's good.
Yeah, and that's something we want. Like, we have people that come in that have had the same hemp t-shirt for 5 years and they're just replacing it, and we're more than happy. We don't want people to come in and say that their shirt fell apart or that something wasn't a high quality. You know, there's other ways to do business, and we don't need this disposable economy to keep thriving by any means. Yeah.
You mentioned that your hemp clothing is a blend.
Yeah.
Do you know what the blend is with in terms of the other materials?
Yeah, it changes. For the most part, it's generally 55% hemp and then 45% organic cotton. Every once in a while, it will be a silk blend, like the vest that Ted is wearing is a silk blend. And sometimes we'll do linen blends as well, but most of the time it's organic cotton. And so that's to try and, you know, get the comfort and the softness of the cotton as well as the durability of the hemp. And even though hemp washes really well and softens as you wash it and wear it, people aren't really receptive to 100% hemp shirts yet. They are when it comes to pants and other things, but when it comes to most clothing, people still want the ones. Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much for coming over. I wouldn't be involved in this movement if it weren't for hemp, actually. So it's really important to me not only to wear it, but to eat it and use it as much as I possibly can.